So let's have the revision of chapter 1, the last lesson, and I'll tell you the lines. See the lines in your book. While I was wondering about it, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me, said, "My children," did you get the line? It is page number 4. Page number 4, second paragraph. Got it?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Gurveer beta. Start. Read this paragraph so that others can
While
also
I
listen.
was one Yes, ma'am. While I was wondering about it all, M. Hamel mounted his chair and in the same grave and gentle tone which he had used to me said, "My children, this is the last lesson I shall give you. The order has come from Berlin to teach only German in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. The new master comes tomorrow. This is your last French lesson. I want you to be very attentive."
Okay, up to this. Who is the narrator and where is he? Who is the narrator according to these lines? Yes, Gurveer
The
beta.
narrator is Franz, who is the
Yes.
narrator is Franz, who is in his class and who is
Yes.
telling about the situation of the class when the notice came
Uh-huh.
about the
Answer in
from
only
Berlin
single
that
line. Single
they
line.
would not learn French anymore.
No need to give the detail for this. You have to answer in single line or single word only.
Okay.
Okay. The narrator is Franz, a young student, and he is in M. Hamel's class. Yes, Prabjot, who was M. Hamel?
M. Hamir was a teacher who taught French in the school.
Yes, M. Hamel was a teacher who taught French in the school. Khushi, Khushi beta, why was it his last lesson?
Because after this day, French was not going to be taught in the class, and German was going to prevail in school.
Yes, it was his last lesson as he was leaving, and French was no more to be taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine. Next, I can see Kavya. Kavya beta, please unmute yourself. Muskan Sudhir. Muskan Sudhir or Dipinder. Muskan Sudhir or Dipinder.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Dipinder beta. What did he wish his students to do? What did he wish his students to do? Yes, according to these lines, what did he wish his students to do? Yes, Ketan.
And he wants his student to be attentive in this last French lesson.
Yes, be careful for the tense. The question is given in the past. What did he wish? He wished his students to attend his lecture carefully. Clear? Now, coming to the next lines, Jasmine, you will read the lines. Find out lines from the chapter. That's great trouble with Alsake. She puts off learning till tomorrow. Find out the lines. Now, those fellows out there will have the right to say to you, how is it? You pretend to be Frenchmen, and yet you can neither speak nor write your own language, but you are not the worst, poor little France. We have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. This is on page 5, third paragraph, starting from in between. This is the fifth line of the third paragraph. Starting from fifth
Yes,
line
ma'am.
of the third paragraph. That's great trouble with Alsake. Got the lines?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is the
Yes.
speaker?
Ma'am, here the speaker is the French teacher M. Hamel.
M. Hamel, French teacher. And what is the regret in his mind?
Uh, Ma'am, he is having the regret that now as the French was now start to prevail in the schools, they will not able to neither write or speak their own language.
His regret is that people of Elsik are in the habit of postponing the things. Because in the end, what does he tell? That we have all a great deal to reproach ourselves with. That means we postpone the things, we delay the things, and then we regret for that. So his regret is that people of these areas, particularly Ilsik and Lorraine, are in the habit of postponing things. Yes, Tisha beta,
Yes, ma'am.
who are those fellows? In these lines, those fellows word is used. Who are those fellows and how would they mock at the Frenchmen? Yes, who are those fellows? Those fellows,
Those fellows
yes,
are the people of Alsake and
no. See the lines carefully.
village.
Now those fellows out there will have the right to say to you. सेक के लोग होंगे तो वो तो अपने आप को थोड़ी मजाक करेंगे. They will not make fun of themselves. They will not mock at themselves. अपने आप का नहीं मजाक उड़ाएंगे अपने फ्रेंच लोगों का. Those fellows are the Germans. Those fellows are the Germans. How would they mock at the Frenchmen? कैसे उन पे हंसेंगे, कैसे उनका मजाक उड़ाएंगे? Yes, Tisha beta.
They will make fun of them because the Frenchmen are not able to speak or write their own language.
Yes, they would mock at the Frenchman by saying that they only pretended to be French as they could neither speak nor write their own language. Yeah. Yes. Next question. Ashwinder Kaur.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. According to these lines, who were blameworthy for the present situation according to the speaker?
Ma'am, I think the French people were blameworthy.
According to the speaker, not France, but all of them, all the people of France, they were blameworthy for the present situation. Okay. Yes. Next, I want Ketan Sethi.
Yes, ma'am.
Please read the lines. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. Coming to the
Yes,
next
ma'am.
passage only. Continue.
Yes, ma'am. Your parents were not anxious enough to have you learn. They preferred to put you to work on a farm or at the mills so as to have a little more money. And I have been to blame also. Have I not often sent you to water my flowers instead of learning your lessons? And when I wanted to go fishing, did I not just give you a holiday?
Yes. Who is addressing and to whom?
Ma'am, the French teacher M. Hamel is addressing to the friends, little
To
friends.
only France. Only France is there in the
No,
class.
all the students.
He is addressing to his students and some villagers. Some elder people, some villagers were also sitting there in the class. Okay. Then next, Kanav Batra. Kanav Batra, please unmute yourself. Kanav Batra. Yes. On the basis of these lines, who were put to earn more money for the parents? Who?
Children were put.
Yes, the school
Children were put.
children, yes, school going children were put to work to earn a little more money for their parents. Next one, Samvit Dugal. Samvit Dugal, Kashvi. Kashvi Chaucer, beta, please participate in the discussion. Kashvi, Samvit Dugal.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, beta. According to these lines, what made the speaker to blame himself? What made the speaker to blame himself?
He blames himself as he had also regretted that he often sent the children to water his flowers instead of learning his lessons. And when he wanted to go to fishing, he gave holiday to the children. So he
Yes, the speaker, M. Hamel, remembers how he himself would send his pupils or the students or the children for some odd jobs like watering the plants, etc. And this made him blame himself for wasting their precious time. Okay. Yes, coming to the next question, Sambit Dugal, will you unmute yourself? Gurkirat Singh, Harshita Gandhi, Harshita Gandhi, Harshita Gandhi. Next one, Kavya Chawla, Aditi. Kavya Chawla, Aditi beta, please unmute yourself.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, beta. What do you think of the speaker? According to these lines, what do you think of the speaker? What type of person?
Ma'am, can you repeat the line?
The lines are on page 5, fourth paragraph. Your parents were not anxious enough, which were read by one of your student. When he tells the parents why the students are not to be blamed for their negligence, the teacher is also responsible, the parents are also responsible. What do you think about the speaker from these lines? The speaker is M. Hamel here, the teacher. Yes, he is.
Ma'am,
Yes, Matthew, you want to say anything?
Ma'am, please repeat the question.
What do you know about the speaker, or what do you think about the speaker from these lines?
The speaker is in a regretful mood after reading these lines. He is regretful that he had also committed mistakes by which the students cannot learn their language properly.
Yes, if we are to give one or two words for the characteristic or about his character, what we can use, that the
He
speaker
is in a
is,
regretful mood.
he is highly objective and self-conscious. Self-conscious means he knows about himself, what he has done, what wrong he has done, and he is ready to admit that also. Clear? Coming to the
Yes,
next,
ma'am.
coming to the next lines. Diksha, Diksha beta.
Yes, ma'am.
Coming to next page. The lines are, it was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical. The line starts from page 6, last line of page 6, continued on page 5, sorry, and continued to page 7. It was the most beautiful language in the world, the clearest, the most logical, that we must guard it among us and never forget it. Because when a people are enslaved, as long as they hold fast to their language, it is as if they had the key to their prison. Did you get the lines, Diksha beta?
Yes, ma'am.
Which language is being referred to here?
Ma'am, ma'am, the French language is
Yes,
referred here.
French language is being referred to. Yeah. What does the speaker think of the language referred to by him?
Ma'am, the speaker M. Hamel feels that their language is the most beautiful and the clearest language and most logical language in the world.
Yes, the speaker thinks that French is the most clear and the logical language in the world. Yes, Kapish Chandra. Kapish, please unmute yourself. Khushi, Mansi Malhotra, please beta unmute yourself and answer the questions. Muskan Sudhir, Muskan Sian. Yes, Khushi beta.
May I?
Yes, Khushi beta. Your question is, according to these lines, what is his advice to the listeners?
He wants his listener to be very attentive in class as this is going to be their last lesson in French. So he wanted them to listen attentively to his lessons.
According to these lines. According to these lines.
Lines repeat.
Beta, be particular. The lines start from page 5, the last line, and continued on page 7, the beginning lines, when he glorified the language, the French language. Then he gave an advice also to the listeners. When he tells that it is the beautiful, the clearest, and the logical language, we must guard it among us and never forget it, because when a people are
Because
enslaved,
the
as
language
long
is the key of the prison.
his advice to his listener is to guard their language and never forget it. He
Yes, ma'am.
wants that they should protect this language, guard their language, and never forget it. Clear?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, Mansi, Muskan Sudhir, Pranjal, 68 roll number, Pranjal, Prithvi. Beta, don't waste time. Quickly unmute yourself. Tisha. Yes, Aditya Parmar. Aditya Parmar, will you unmute yourself? Aditya Parmar. Aditya Parmar, beta, please unmute yourself and answer. Why should the enslaved people not forget their language? Why should the enslaved people not forget their language? Are you going to answer? Should I move forward? Aditya, are you going to answer, beta? Yes, Gurveer, beta.
Yes, ma'am. The people who are enslaved should keep hold of their language because language is the only key to their prison.
Yes, the enslaved people should not forget their language, as it were like a key to their prison. Clear? Now let's go for the next lines. Once some beetles flew in. These lines are on page 7, second last passage. Yes, Kanav Batra beta, क्या problem है? Please mute yourself. Yes, the lines, second last passage on page 7. Once some beetles flew in, but nobody paid any attention to them, not even the littlest one, who worked right on tracing their fish hooks, as if that was French too. On the roof, the pigeons cooed very low, and I thought to myself, will they make them sing in German, even the pigeons? Yes, the question is, Prabjot beta. Prabjot, please
Yes,
unmute
ma'am.
yourself. The question is, where did the beetles fly in?
The beetles flew in the class of M. Hamil.
Yes, the beetles flew in the classroom of M. Hamel. What was being done and by whom at that time?
a writing task was performed in French language by the students in the
Yes,
class.
a writing task in French was being done at that time by the French students. By the students. What made even the kids do their work with full concentration? Yes,
The the thought that they were writing in French for the last time made them do their work with full energy and concentration.
yes. They were having this thought in their mind that they were writing their lessons in the French language, that was their mother tongue, for the last time. That's why they were paying full attention to their work. Yes, next. Matthew beta.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, who is I referred to here? And what thought did he have?
I is referred here to the France.
Yes.
Uh,
What thought did he have?
he thought that even the German people will have even the German people will make the peasants to sing in German.
Yes, he thought in a humorous way, if the Germans could force even the pigeons to sing in the German. Yes, coming to the next line, rest of the students also please participate beta in discussions so that you can have your ideas and I can listen your language, how you are speaking, what is your listening and speaking skill. Coming to the lines, how it must have broken his heart to leave it all, poor man, to hear his sister moving about in the room above, packing their trunks, for they must leave the country next day. This is on page 8, first paragraph, last lines. First paragraph, last lines. Yes, who will answer? Please raise your hands quickly. Again and again, same students coming forward. Why don't you participate? Harshita Gandhi, Gurkirat Singh, no new name. All the same students are coming. Harshita, beta, any problem? Why don't you unmute yourself? Kavya Chawla, Damanpreet Kaur, Damanpreet Kaur. No one from these? Then I need to go again to those students back if you are not willing to speak. Hmm? You all must participate in the discussion. Pranjal, Prithvi, Muskan Sudhir, Mansi Malhotra, Kapish Chandra. No one is willing. Okay, let's continue then. Yes, Khushi beta.
Yes, ma'am.
The question is, who is the narrator here?
The narrator is boyfriend.
Boy, little French. Who is called the poor man and why?
The teacher M. Hamill is called the poor man because he is going to leave the country tomorrow as French will not be taught and he is
Yes.
a French.
He had to leave a place where he lived and taught for years. Why were trunks being packed?
His sister was packing the trunks so that they may leave tomorrow
As they were leaving the country for good. Why was it difficult for them to leave the country?
because they were living there for many years and in this way they have to leave such at such times so they leave with heartbroken and heavy heart.
Yes, the love of the motherland made it difficult for them to leave the country. Yes, next. Jasmine beta. All at
Yes, ma'am.
once, the church clock struck 12. Then the Angelus. At the same moment, the trumpets of the Prussians returning from drill sounded under our windows. M. Hamel stood up very pale in his chair. I never saw him look so tall. Did you get the lines? This is the
Yes, yes,
second,
ma'am.
third paragraph on page number 8. Where was he and when the clock struck 12? Where was the narrator when the clock struck 12?
Ma'am, the Ma'am, he was in the classroom when the church clock struck 12.
What do you mean by the Angelus?
Ma'am, here the Angelus means the ending prayer of the day.
Yes, a prayer said in the Roman Catholic Church. And what made M. Hamel stand up and look very pale? Yes.
Ma'am, repeat the question.
What made M. Hamel stand up and look very pale?
Ma'am, at that moment, the trumpets of the Prussians were returning from drill that was sounded under their classroom windows. So M. Hamel stood up and was looking very pale.
What does it show? Because he realized that it was the time for him to leave the country and say goodbye to his friends. It was the time for the ending of the class. The class was going to be over. That's why he became pale. He realized that it was the time to leave the class and say goodbye to his students. Then coming to the last extract, my friend said he, but something choked him. He could not go on. Then he turned to the blackboard, took a piece of chalk, and bearing on with all his might, he wrote as large as he could, Viva la France. Question is, who is he? Diksha, according to these
Yes,
lines,
ma'am. Ma'am, here he refers to M. Hamel.
yes. And why was he so sentimental?
He was so emotional because the last class of the French language was over and he would not be able to teach the language again.
Yes. One more question is relating to the same answer that will go, why, what could he not do and why? He could not utter his farewell at this time as emotions overwhelmed him. He was overwhelmed by the emotions. What did he write on the blackboard?
Ma'am, he wrote Vive la France, which means long live France.
Yes. And what do you think of him from this?
He was so dedicated towards his language and teaching profession, and he would miss teaching and speaking their own language.
Yes. Now let's have some questions. Matthew, will you explain about the background of the story in 30 to 40 words? If you have to tell about a brief background of the story.
Yes, ma'am, I could tell.
Yes.
The story tells us about the importance of our mother language. It tells us about that how important our mother language is. In this story, a character named France
Excuse me.
always
Excuse me, beta. The question is about the brief background of the story or the setting of the story, not about the story and about its character. In which background the story is set? We are told in the very beginning of the chapter, when the chapter starts, we are told about the background. Yes, Ashwinder?
Ma'am, the background of the story is about the Franco-Prussian War, uh, in which the France was defeated by Prussia, and the Prussian rulers ordered the French that French will be no longer taught in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, and it's about the feelings about the French people and the teacher and his students and how they reacted to the news and what was their feelings.
Yes, very good. The background of the story is set in the Franco-Prussian War, in which France was defeated and an order came from Berlin that French would not be taught in the areas of in the schools of Alsace and Lorraine, and from the next day they would have German language. And then the story tells us about the reaction of the teacher, the students, and the villagers about this change. Clear? Now, coming to the next question, I would like to ask Harshita Gandhi if you can do. Dapinder, Dapinder beta, Dapinder.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, there was a large crowd in front of the bulletin board. Why? There was a large crowd in front of the bulletin board. Why?
Ma'am, there was a large crowd in front of the bulletin board because they were defeated by the Germans, and there was written that now French will not be taught in the school, and they have to learn German from tomorrow, from next day, and they have to leave their country also.
Yes, this was the next news they had on the bulletin board. That's why the people were there to read this news. Otherwise, what is told about the bulletin board? Anything else told about it? What other things we are told about this bulletin board? Yes, Jasmine beta.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, it is told that on the bulletin board from last 2 years, only the bad news is had came from there about the lost battles, the drafts, or the orders of the commanding officers.
Yes, bad news they were going to get from that because the war was going on and they were getting the regular news from that bulletin board only. And on that particular day, the news was displayed about the order that had come from Berlin that no more teaching of French language would be there in these schools. They would be taught German.